Hello, this is Roland. Welcome. Today I want to continue reading from A Guide to True Peace Revisited, a little book that I edited, which contains spiritual writings from Madame Guyon, François Fénelon, and Miguel de Molinos. Three mystics, three spiritual writers, who all lived in the 1600s. I always say around 1700. And they were fantastic. Okay? They seemed to really get it. So let me begin reading once again from chapter 5. This book is available online, incidentally. A Guide to True Peace Revisited. You can visit my website, sheddingshackles.com, or talktoapastor.org. For a small donation of any amount, I'll send you a PDF of it by email right away. On Attaining True Prayer. The sort of prayer to which we have alluded is that of inward silence, wherein the soul, abstracted from all outward things, in holy stillness, humble reverence, and lively faith, waits patiently to feel the divine presence and to receive the precious influence of the Holy Spirit. See, no sooner did the human race become separated from God, which is what happened. See, that's what sin does. It separates you from God. Now, when you sin, you won't realize that you're being separated from God. You may eventually, but all you know is that you've lost your powers to do good. You may huff and puff and do all kinds of things and volunteer and try to lecture people on how to live and try to live right and read the Bible and do everything, but somehow it's empty, and it's devoid of the power to do good. You lecture your kids, and all you do is create conformists or rebels. The conformists conform for approval, but they have weak character, and the rebels, well, they're angry because they see the hypocrisy, the phoniness, and so they rebel. Okay. So you're separated from your powers, but you're separated from being able to not totally separated from being able to realize and intuit, but separated enough so that, for the most part, you don't pay attention to your own intuition, which is from God. Instead, you dig down into your intellect to solve problems, or you try to find out what some expert has to say, or you get other people to do it for you, and everything becomes a big mess. So, in your fallen state, see, Adam fell, then the whole human race sprung into existence, a race of fallen beings, fallen people, okay, egos trying to solve their own problems without God. Now, the other reason that you're separated from intuition and insight and wisdom and the wordless knowledge of how to solve problems, how to prevent problems, so that you don't even have problems. Or if you have problems, they quickly solve themselves. Or if there's a problem, then you know how to deal with it, with grace, with aplomb, with le mot juste, see, with savoir-faire. And the reason that you're separated is because you acquire a guilt. A guilt for being separated, because we're not supposed to be. Human beings were created to be close to God and to receive wisdom from Him and guidance, and to learn from Him, and then to worship Him. See, for all the great things that He that he does, and to love him. That's what we were created for. St. Augustine said, our souls were created for you, O Lord, and they are restless until they find rest in you. It's beautiful. That's how he began his confessions. I think that's how he began. Maybe at the beginning of one of his of the chapters, but it's very beautifully said. So, if you are close to your intuition, close to wisdom, close to that wordless knowing, see, then you will be able, and then act from that. Then you'll solve all your problems. You won't even have problems. Everybody else will have problems, you won't even have them. And if there are some, why, many of them will resolve themselves. And if they don't, then you'll know exactly what to do. The economical thing, the wise thing, the graceful thing. You'll just know, and you'll just do it. So separated from that, see, and from your Father Spirit, you have guilt and anxiety. Guilt and anxiety. You may not even feel guilt anymore. See, the farther away you get from that, from your center, the farther you get, the less and less you even know what's happening, until you're so far away. See, there are people walking around who have no conscience. They do bad things. They don't even realize that they're wrong. That's how far away you get. Okay, people don't even know they're separated. They don't even know they have guilt. They may eventually sometimes have an anxiety. They don't know what the cause of it is. They think it's because they're not trying hard enough or doing enough, and then you misinterpret your guilt. You think your guilt is for not being good enough or trying hard enough, whereas your guilt is actually for playing God and for fleeing from the light and not admitting you're wrong. So we flee from the light. Okay, so with this race of fallen beings. So having fallen, then what happens? Well, if you're separated from wisdom, from understanding, from grace, from the power to do good, then there you are, this lone ego, stricken, striving. See, and then you have to drum something up to substitute for grace, for wisdom, for divine energy of love. You have to drum something up, and so it's emotion. So you drum up emotion, which is like a general. Dr. Hans Selye, the great expert on stress, talk about the GAS, the General Adaptation Syndrome. Dr. Hans Selye, the great expert on stress, talked about the GAS, the General Adaptation Syndrome. So we have a local adaptation syndrome. If you cut your finger, then you get what? You get swelling, you get fluid, you get white blood cells rushing there. You get all kinds of activity there to handle that local emergency. But the general adaptation syndrome is when there's some kind of a trauma or some kind of a challenge, and the whole body responds. And very often it's dysfunctional. Not always. See, if all of a sudden there's a lion facing you and you have to do something, you have to run, climb a tree or something, or fight, then your whole body needs to be involved. So it's useful. Adrenaline pumps through your system, and your blood chemistry changes, and the sugar level changes, and your heart beats faster, and just a myriad of changes. But in the long run, this general adaptation syndrome is dysfunctional. It causes toil on the whole body, wear and tear, and uses up energy. Well, emotion for humans, see, animals have instinct. So animals are not emotional the way we are. Sure, the animals may have a whole body response to some threat or some challenge. But the animal doesn't have emotion rush to its head the way humans do. You know, in extreme cases, okay, the animal becomes ferocious or fearful or something. But for the most part, the adaptation is just a bodily response, but for humans it rushes to our head. And the reason for that is that we humans were not created to solve problems without intuition, without wisdom, without common sense. See, we weren't created to do that. And so emotion is a substitute, it's a compensation that not only gingers up the body, but and gets the brain involved. See, and it's also a kind of drug that shields you from realizing your own foolishness, your own folly, your own wrong, for huffing and puffing and trying to solve issues without intuition and common sense and divine guidance, really. So there is emotion. Emotion locks you. See, and the other thing is we should only respond to what we know in our heart. You should be responding to the inner fount of wisdom, of love, of patience, of understanding. See, that inner fount is what you should be looking within, to God's light, in other words. You should be looking to God's light for wordless guidance. On a moment-to-moment basis, you should always be looking to the inner light, delicately looking within. Miguel Molinos called it recollection. He called it contemplation. See, contemplation, being in the presence of God. But he goes on to say in one of his chapters, I'm actually editing his book now. He wrote a book called The Spiritual Guide. It was translated into English a long time ago. It's now in the public domain. It was an excellent job of translating it. And I'm actually editing it a little bit to just to get it ready so I can bring it forth for the modern reader. And he says that, you know, if you're in the presence of God, then you go out in the world and you go about your business. You're a mom, you're a dad, you go to work, you have recreation, you do all the things that you do. But you remain attached. See, there's an attachment. It's like a cord, something that keeps you attached. And so you may not be thinking about God every moment, but you're always you're just a little bit distant to things, and you're always checking with your conscience about the rightness of things. See, so you move with more, you're more circumspect, more thoughtful. See, but it's there. Okay, so that's the way we're supposed to live. But instead, when you're cut off from that, or you're avoiding it, see, if you want to play God, see that part. See, it's not only that we inherit. See, we all inherit this fallen nature from Adam. You can't help that. But then you can't resist playing God, judging other people, lording it over them with knowledge. See, wanting to impress others and all that kind of stuff. So basically, you want to play God. Say, look at me, look at how great I am, look what I did, look what I made. See? Well, it's natural. Little kids are that way, and it's cute when they're little, but then when we get to be big adults and we're still that way, then it's not cute anymore. Okay? And that kind of an attitude then will ruin. See? Okay, maybe you'll make a lot of money, maybe you won't, but maybe you will. Or you receive some worldly accolades or something, but your family will hate you. See, because they'll see what you're really like. So the important ways in life you'll fail. So now you see that emotions are responding to the outside. So instead of responding to the inner, if you respond to the outer, then the result is emotions. So basically you're controlled by the outside. And then after the emotions arise, then you're compelled by the emotions. See? So you lose your freedom too. Okay? So now do you see the wisdom in patience, in waiting, in being still? See, the ego is always striving, huffing, trying to do something, trying to make something happen. That's why they call it emotion. The emotion is inner turmoil, inner movement, which is a result of having reacted to the outside. But instead, if you look to the within, look to your intuition, if you become still, check with your conscience, check with the inner light, check with what you know in your heart. Then listen again now to this, now with the backdrop of what I have just said, as I have described the situation that most people are in. Listen now again. The sort of prayer to which we have alluded is that of inward silence, wherein the soul, abstracted from all outward things, in holy stillness, humble reverence, and lively faith, waits patiently to feel the divine presence and to receive the precious influence of the Holy Spirit. I'm going to continue to read a little bit more here. And when you retire for this purpose, which should be your frequent practice, you should consider yourself as being placed in the divine presence, looking with a single eye to Him, resigning yourself entirely into His hands, to receive from Him whatsoever He may be pleased to dispense to you, calmly endeavoring, at the same time, to fix your minds in peace and silence, quitting all your own reasoning and not willingly thinking on anything, however good and however profitable it may appear to be. So, you see this person who was very cognizant of waiting patiently instead of trying to make something happen, waiting for God in His good time and in His good pleasure to give you what He will. Okay? And if He doesn't give you anything, then that's what you're going to get. It's nothing. Okay? See, that's also part of humility. So you see how humility is. Learning to see your own ego strivings, seeing that you're playing God, seeing that you're making a mess out of things, seeing that you can't do any good. Even Christ said, of myself I can do nothing. See? Seeing all of that, which is wisdom, and knowing that God is God. See, it says in the Bible, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. It says in the Old Testament, God said through His prophet, God said, be still and know that I am God. So when you become still and you know that God is God and you're not God, see, that's the beginning of the change for the good for your life. See, so it leaves what? A certain emptiness, a certain need. But then that emptiness and that need, if you wait patiently and don't try to fill it yourself, it becomes a holy need and a holy emptiness, which is then filled by God. Okay? Christ said, "Blessed are you who lay down your earthly life and pick up the spiritual life." Okay? So now you see what giving up the earthly life is: giving up the emotions and the passions and the excitements and the rages, and the love of the world makes for enmity with God. Seeing it all for what it is, not resenting it, not hating it, but just seeing it for what it is. Okay? And looking to within for fulfillment. And then Christ said, "Blessed are they who seek, for they shall find. Who ask, they shall receive." See? My name is Roland.